In this episode, I will code review what David did in the last episode on the online business series. I have no idea what he did, so this will be very interesting. You are watching DevTips with me, MPJ.
And David!
All right.
I'm here. Hello. Before we get started, I just want to mention today's sponsor, EduOnix. And they have a Kickstarter campaign, and it's called Full Stack JavaScript Developer E-Degree Program. And it is what it sounds. It's a JavaScript mastery program which has 12 courses, 30 projects, hundreds of code snippets. They have webinars and exams and stuff. Check out the link in the episode description to learn more about that. Let's get on with the show. Okay, so I will send you a link to the repo, so you can just clone the master branch.
I keep all my code in this code temp directory. I tend to always name my things that are connected to, you know, like GitHub repos into temp, just to remind myself that, oh, you need to be committing all the time. That this could be destroyed at any moment, because I like to live my life as if I could just go crazy and just throw my laptop into the river at any time. What's the command for this? Git clone thingy. All right, sweet. Let's go into that directory and open up Visual Studio Code.
So now we're gonna do Visual Studio has a live share feature where MPJ will share his environment with me through Visual Studio, and then we can highlight and edit each other's code.
Visual Studio Code is amazing. The way this works is that I click this thing, I share my workspace down here. Collaboration invite link copied to clipboard. Then I'll paste that in our private chat over here that you can't see. Yeah, my hair is very frizzy today. I really need a haircut. It's getting like growing out on the sides, so it's like fluffy.
Okay, so should I walk you through what's happening here in the code?
Like, I want you to walk me through what it is that you're doing.
First.
I guess we need to start up a terminal so I can start this project.
Have you ever used Next.js?
What? No. Like, I know that it's created by that
okay.
Short guy with the beard. Live share terminal. Read and write so that you can destroy my system. And yes. I guess npm start. No, I guess npm install.
Yes, and also I should give you, I have some environment variables to Firebase. I will just send you the file, you can drop it in, and then no one will know anything about that.
By the way, while David is doing that, I can tell you that we're gonna be doing a lot of things without explaining what they are. And that's okay if you don't understand anything. Like, you just start, perhaps you just Google it, look it up, and if that doesn't work, just write a comment down below and we will answer your questions. Like, this is about, like, that's part of this series. Like, that's the idea, that you just get constantly confused, and then you, oh, what's that? And then you learn about it. You know what, David? You are jumping ahead. You're assuming that this works. Lacking a next directory. Is that even there? How do you show well is that?
Oh, I just assumed that next would be bundled into the package.json, so you would. Perhaps that was bad of me, a bad assumption.
What do you mean bundle into the package.json?
I meant that I thought that Next.js was sort of like React, so that you would just, once you did the npm install, that it would automatically have been saved, because when I installed
it does, but like Next.js is probably there, but there's some, it's looking for, I mean, if you look here, it's here. Like,
Yes.
it is there, and it will be installed. But if you check in the terminal and scroll up a bit, you'll see here that it's looking for a .next directory. It has some magical .next directory that it expects to.
So I ran it now with npm run
Now it
dev
started.
on your.
What?
Yes, I ran it. So you see in the scripts here. So I used npm run dev.
Run dev. I ran start and then it broke.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Start perhaps is when you've hosted it somewhere. So I don't know. npm run dev. It seems to be working.
Oh yeah. So npm start is like the production thing when running it on a dev server, and then it expects to have been built, I suppose. That would make sense. You should first explain what the hell Next is.
Next.js is sort of like a framework that is using React in a sort of simplified way, which also allows React to be server-side rendered. So when you're building React components in, and they have a concept of pages. So once you build a page, then everything will just be working automatically and it will be SEO'd and all that stuff. And they have some like handy features for linking and making the links be indexable by the search robots and stuff.
Other.js, all right.
So this is a default page. It's just like, it's exporting. This is just a shorthand for rendering a div. So now when you go to your local host /other, you will end up on this page. So all the files within the pages directory will become like pages on the site. So but we have all the main functionality is within index.js.
God damn it. Dude, 4 spaces.
In index.js, if you jump down to line 31, there is the render. And the render is returning...
Hang on, I need to edit
HTML
your
element.
stuff so that it can show up on the screen.
It has a layout component, and within that component it has a hero component and an information component. And before we also had an agencies component, that's what I did in the last episode.
I don't understand anything. We need to actually run this and show the site. Otherwise, I have no idea what to connect this to.
Very naively, I thought that I would just give you the project and you would just code review the shit out of it. But you didn't understand it. That's a lesson.
There is a cool new functionality that I learned in Visual Studio Code, that is share server 3000. So now you can go to localhost 3000 on your computer.
Oh, and if I go to /other.
Oh, /other. You have to tell me what to do. I can't remember that. I can't see what.
I did it multiple times, but you didn't listen.
Yeah, but I was doing things while I was.
This will be a long episode, as always. Yes. If you go to other.js.
Hang on, what is a hero?
If you go to components and hero.js.
Yeah, but I mean, what is it conceptually?
Conceptually, it's just like if you're used to Bootstrap, you know that it's just like this big panel with a big message. Like, that is the hero component or the hero part. And then I want to have a list of agencies, and after that some information.
Okay, so it's most trusted agencies in Stockholm. We, the brand, offers for a sample replying with extraordinary design fixes. That's our way of ranking these agencies. And then there's a list of these agencies. Okay, cool.
And if you go to the components directory.
Hang on. So components over here.
And open hero.js. You see that this is just a React component that is rendering plain HTML. And you can check out the layout.js component.
Okay, hang on. Layout.js.
And it has some functionality that it's adding a header with some stuff that says like an h1 tag, and then potentially a nav bar. And then it has its children, which are sub-components. So this is how Next.js works. It has the concept of pages, and the pages will automatically be /whatever, except for the index.js. And the index.js is currently not working. So I guess the first step of the code review is to get that working.
Where do you want me to go?
slash only.
Project ID must be a string in Firebase app options. So normally in a code, normally a code review is not it becomes a little bit weird because you're doing the code review way too late here. You normally do a code review before you submit code into the repository. And a code review is not a functionality overview. It's normally not it doesn't oh, this doesn't work. That's not part of the code review. Functionality is expected. It's expected to work. So code review, I'm just saying this because a lot of people are going to say that, oh, this is not a code review once we start fixing bugs.
That's correct. What I should have done is to create a README with instructions how you get this project up and working. That would say that you should run npm run dev. You should add a .env file with keys and stuff.
Yeah, that's normally how it would work.
I didn't do that.
But I mean, in the ideal workplace, nobody does all of these things right. Everything is just a jumble of oh, this is but in the in the utopia, that's how you do it. I'm assuming that this error occurs because we don't have the environment files which contains all of the Firebase authentication things. All right,
that's correct.
But just get me the file somehow.
Okay, I'm sending you a hidden.env file, so drop it into your directory and then rename it to just .env.
So now it's there.
Go and watch the previous episode where I explain how the .env file works. And now I just changed the name to simply .env.
Cool.
And now...
so the reason you changed it to hidden.env was so that you could see it in the Finder file system.
Yes.
Okay, that was clever.
Which is I should have given it another, visible.env would have been more logical, but I didn't do that. So now if you try and access the index page / again.
Let's see. Boom. No, but I suspect
perhaps
that
you need to reboot the server.
Hang on.
So
yeah.
I stop it, and then I npm run dev again. So now it's rebooting.
Wait, let's have a look. Oh, cool.
And you see that it says Traversy Media has a ranking of 2, DevTips has a ranking of 1, FunFunFunction has a ranking of 0.
Okay.
That is data from the database. And then how do I find a good web design agency? That is the information component. In the index.js page component. So I'm using a variable called agencies, and that is fetching agencies from props. And this is a Next.js thing that if you use a function called getInitialProps, it can do things like fetching remote data and having it server-side render that data as well. So if you remember in the react.js prototyping series, we had to have this spinner or this loader before the data got mounted on component did mount. If a Googlebot or something was trying to scrape and trying to index that playlist project, it wouldn't work because it hadn't loaded the data on the initial page load. But with Next.js, they sort that out. It gets everything server-side rendered if you use it as props within a page component. Then it will just automatically work. So that's why I don't have this in a separate component in the components directory. It's because getInitialProps, if you scroll up to line 8, because getInitialProps is specific for a component that is a page component in Next.js. So what's happening here is we have the getInitialProps.
This is not a React thing.
Correct. So if we have the getInitialProps, we can do stuff like I load Firebase, and then I do things here, which is I create a promise to then get a collection and just make a query to get 10 documents in the collection, I get them, and then I get a snapshot, and I loop through the snapshot and get data that I resolve. And if I don't get anything, I just reject with an empty array. That makes the collection query result end up in a result. And then at the bottom, I return a props object, which I say that I put all the results in the on line 29. I put all the result in the agencies field. So now we have everything working. So what I actually wanted you to do a review of is that I'm not very good at structuring things, and I know that you're new to Next.js. But I already have like the feel that perhaps all this, everything here, this get initial props, all that logic perhaps shouldn't be there. I don't know. I just want to show you something else, that if you open and go to libdb.js.
Hang on, I'm there.
Here we have what's going on. I first load Firebase, and then that's where I use all the environment variables, put them into the Firebase config, initialize Firebase, an app, and then I do some specific Firebase Firestore setting that it was warning me about, that I needed to have these timestamps in snapshots true. And I wrap that in a try-catch block, because otherwise it will try to reinitialize the app each time it's loading the components. So that's why I say here that if an error message here on line 20, if I get an error message that says something about that it already exists, that's fine. But if it's something else with the exclamation mark here, I log out that something happened in the initialization that was incorrect.
All right.
So this try catch is just to not reinitialize Firebase all the time.
Tip is that there is a quick tip is that there is a console.error that turns out to be like it's the same thing. It's just that it sprays out like red in the console, so you spot it more easily among if you have a lot of console logs and console.info. One thing that I want to dive into immediately is the get initial props thing, because I think we have there's a lot of improvements that we can do there. I think that get initial props is actually a great thing to code review here, because I think that this contains a lot of really good mistakes.
Yes.
This contains like some of the like ways that people normally misunderstand promises, and why async await is so extremely popular very fast, because it's used in situations where people have not understood promises. So this new promise here, I would like to, the first thing we're gonna do is to get rid of this. Because I think that this wrapper here is not really necessary, because this thing is already returning promises, so we can just create a chain of then. So thinking like, so if you look at here, we have this resolve over here, and we have this reject over here. Let's actually just try to remove this for now. And just get rid of, I'm gonna comment it out so that we see what we're doing. I'm gonna comment it out down here as well. So now we have this thing here that returns a promise. I'm pretty sure that this will be equivalent. We can just do. So what is this thing? What's the purpose of this?
It's just that I was thinking that, okay, so up here on line 11, we're like trying to access the collection in Firestore. And my thinking was that perhaps the server doesn't have a connection to the agencies, to the Firestore, or something. Something might happen. And then there will be an error. And then to have the app not just break, we could just reject by sending an empty array, and then everything down below, if you go to within the components thing, like on line 41 and stuff, then all that logic would just work because it would still be an array that it would be mapping over.
Have you tested this? All right.
No.
Don't write code without testing it. Because this won't work. This is because reject is like normally when you use reject, you want to like do new error thing here. Because that is kind of like if, for instance, if you had awaited this promise, it would be thrown. So it would be what was in the catch. So you would basically be catching something, and then you would get like an empty array there. That is super weird. So what like the thing, like in order to achieve what was your intention, you would do resolve. Then it would kind of like catch errors. But it's a little bit funky. Like it's a little bit funky.
I see that's not the intent of using reject resolve.
No, I mean exactly. Like it's really weird to just throw an empty array as an error. But anyway, if this is if your intent is to just swallow every single error ever and just return an empty array, I think it's still a little bit weird to have on this level. I think it's better to do that on a perhaps. It seems like we're bundling in a lot of functionality in there. But again, we're trying to solve multiple errors at the same time here. I'm going to leave. I'm just going to do that for now. So now it does what you intended it to do. Now this code is equivalent to. No, hang on. I can actually just do this. There. I think this will work. Yeah, something like this. Whoops. Is there any way I can simulate an error here?
Well, yeah, so in db.js, change the project ID to like something else.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, like that. I guess. Perhaps it won't initialize.
No, it says have nothing
anyways.
now.
I don't know.
So,
all
yeah,
right.
and if I get that back, oh, it still says have nothing.
I think the result is just undefined, right? Or a promise. And then it just thinks that...
Oh, wait, hang on. Yeah, exactly. We need to await it. Otherwise it won't work. Okay, resolve is not defined. Oh, yeah. So we're resolving here. We don't need to do that because if we return a value in a then, it will just be passed on to the next promise. So we can just remove this and just say return data.
Yeah, because it will be passed on. So if it was another then there, then this data would be that data.
So let's see if we can get this error working. And let me comment this out. I'll npm run dev again. Next. Project ID is not provided in Firebase initialize app. Do you know what? I would actually I'm gonna just remove this catch thing here. I'm just gonna remove this code because you have no idea if this code works or not. This is just you writing speculative code right out into the air. Let's not ever do that ever. If you can't test it reliably, just don't write it. It's not fair to your colleagues because your colleagues will assume that the code you have written into the project are working. It's and also like maybe you don't even have to think colleagues. Maybe it's just your project because your future self that has that is returning to this project after your vacation. We'll assume that this works and then just leave it there.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it seems like when I'm gonna move that back, and now hopefully it will restart.
Yeah, so it seems
Cool.
to be working.
Now for the next one, this snapshot for each. Can I map these?
I don't know. That's from the Firestore documentation.
All right, let's have a look at that then. Query snapshots. Does it have a for each? Yes, it does. Does it have a map? Oh, damn it. Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, but so that part with a snapshot for each, that is from one of their examples.
Yeah, because when I see code like this, I kind of want to do that as a map instead, because that would be way more succinct. But
yeah, because that would just return it.
yeah, this is they are essentially re-implementing map here with an array and the return data. So we would be able to do this in one line. That said, so all you're doing here is extending the data object here with the ID.
Yeah, so I'm extending with the ID because the doc data has the key value pairs.
Okay.
And then the ID is the ID of the document. And I need the ID because Next.js, I don't know if this is React or Next.js, but if you look below on line 41, you see that it wants to have a key with some unique identifier that is not just an iterator. That was something that, I don't know if it's Next.js or React that wanted it. So that's why I just wanted to have some ID, and then I could just use the ID from the document.
Yeah, this is React that wants it. Because the way React works is that it just updates all the time. And in order to compare the last list with the current list, and in order to like figure out like smart manipulations to do in order for have it fast rendered, it needs to know like the unique identifier of each thing. What is like, what agency in the old world corresponds to the agency in the new world, and do I need to fiddle things around? And that's why React always wants a key.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that this is probably as sleek as we can do it. I don't know if does Next.js allow for that object spread operator. This is sort of just object assign but built into the language. Seems like it's working, right? Right now. So there we go. Now it has a ranking of nothing. And if I... I find that Next.js is very slow on the uptake. Like I change things here, but it doesn't immediately refresh here. Have you found that?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't.
To be honest, I think that you're doing something wrong with Next.js, because this seems like a thing that they wouldn't design out.
Yeah, perhaps you're right. I will investigate that.
Because hot reloading is so nice. Anyway, we can get rid of this now. These comments here. And the thing is like this...
It's a bit funny that I don't know why I wrapped that whole thing with a promise, because as you said, it was a promise already.
But I see that all the time.
I think I was trying to solve some other bug, and then I just did it, and then I forgot
anyway,
about it.
we don't, like, this doesn't really need to be async, this function either, because we can just do, like, I could just do this, load Firebase, then Firebase, then, and we don't really care about the Firebase. This is gonna give us one more indentation level, which is a little bit annoying.
But don't... Okay.
So, I'm just gonna show you how this works.
But yeah, this is the thing I'm wondering about, the return of the props object.
Yeah, I'm gonna comment that out so that we remember what it is. And then I will just do this. And then I will do down here. Load object dot then it's not a function. Shit.
You know, load Firebase is something I wrote, so I'm not sure that. Yeah, but that is returning Firebase.
So load Firebase. Okay, so this is a bit weird because in the old code, it should be noted here that me and David here, like we've known each other for like 20 billion years or something like that. So when you're giving people critique, it's very important that you adjust to the level of familiarity. Like if you're with a new colleague, especially if that colleague is junior to you, you need to be much more careful with your language and making sure that you're taking their...
Yeah, that's a very good tip, because we are so used to each other, and I'm really not offended by anything you're saying, even if you would call me, you don't actually call me silly names, but if you say that the code is stupid, that's fine. I know that it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Code. Which is kind of like the point. Like you expected this code review to happen as well. I'm gonna look at use magic of version control here to look at the old code. So this thing here just returns like Firebase completely synchronously. Like there's no this is not a sync.
Yes.
But when I looked
Correct.
in the code here, where it's in pages. You await here. So that means that from this code here, when I read it, I assumed that this would return a promise. Then I did this, and then I was really confused when then didn't return any promise. So Firebase, so is this correct that this is actually asynchronous? I suppose it is. I mean, this is synchronous. We don't actually need to wait on anything here. So I can just do
Probably.
like load Firebase here. And then we don't need this indentation. Then I can just do this here. There we go. And I can actually just, since we don't use, we're not using Firebase anywhere else, so I can just do that. And then result is not defined. No, because it's the data here. It does some updating sometimes. It sometimes picks up my save and sometimes not. All right, cool. And since this is now just a promise, we no longer need the sync part here.
Oh yeah, because we added the async to have support for the awaits.
Yeah, exactly. So because an async function will return a promise anyway. So it's just a cake on top of cake, as we say in Sweden. We could also, get rid of this return if we want to get really fancy. What the hell is static?
I don't know. I think that's some kind of Next.js stuff. I have no idea what it is.
Like, does this need to be static? I suppose it does. Anyway, can you make this into a arrow function to get rid of that one? And then I can just get rid of the return. I'm just making it gradually prettier and less code for the same thing. But what about this then? That kind of nice. I think this is probably as tight as we can get it. I'm a bit miffed that the snapshots don't have a map function, but we did some progress. What did we learn?
We learned that this project didn't have the best documentation for how to set it up.
I think you should be able to get started in less than a day in a new workplace. And if it takes more, I think that you really need to do some work on your process, because then you're really subpar. But like getting started like immediately, that almost never happens. Then you're like a super, like then you have like someone working full time and making sure that works. One thing that I think that we demonstrated very clearly is how extremely superior pair programming is to code review. Because one thing with pair programming that we did is when you like have two people working on a project at the same time. That means that the other person is constantly in sync with you. Like we had to spend a huge amount of time getting me up to speed on the project and the code and what changes you like. If I was already familiar with the project, you would have had to get me up to speed on your changes. And also like the reason why.
Yeah, because it was the get initial props that was what I was really intending to get reviewed, but we had to spend a lot of time just browsing through the project and explaining how things are connected and why they work in their way.
One thing that we also misrepresent a big thing with code review. Normally, like the purpose there, like that's fine. Code review is hard to like learn. There's a lot of aspects to it, but this code review is like missing one of the huge advantages of a code review. Code review is normally when a new person comes into the project and starts making additions or changes. Then a person familiar with the project and familiar with structure, like how is Next.js structured, how are the thoughts with this project, how does this connect to everything, then that person can give feedback to the code and say that, hey, yeah, I understand why you added this code here, but a better place for it in this project is here because we have organized it in this and this and this way that would be more consistent with the project. Or like, oh, this is more idiomatic to what Next.js is. Or do you know that, oh, you don't really need to write this code because we have this helper method that was written for this purpose because everybody is doing that in this project.
So in real life, probably a code review would be that you made additions and then I would correct you on the project because this was my project. Exactly. I started it and I had the most experience with it. Thank you for watching. Hit the thumbs up, write in comments and tell us what you thought about this and what you want us to build, how you want us to build out this online business, and we'll see you in the next video. And it's me again. I just wanted to mention the Eduonix full stack JavaScript mastery program, e-degree program. Yeah, you heard it. Go to Kickstarter to check them out if you want to learn more about that.